Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to Two Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Watching for the very first time.
Very first time. We're getting there.
Yes.
I was like, I'm going to see what happens. That was terrible. But my voice did move and something came out. I think I'm getting better.
Yes, there we go.
I'll work on it. There's still work to be done.
That was really good. You could harmonise with the things hanging from the trees here.
Three blind mice. See how they run.
Yeah, so we're on Diva Loca right now.
Yeah.
Having a nice time.
Shit, hang on.
What?
I forgot to put something in the freezer.
Well, that's taken us right out of our intro.
Sorry.
There we go.
Sorry. It's been out for like an hour in my bag and I don't know, it just popped in my head. I was like, shit, put it in the freezer. So, that'll be a mess. That's a post-recording problem.
I thought you were doing a bit then. I thought you were like,
no.
There's a special box that I've got to get.
No. What are you watching at the minute, love?
Joe, I don't really have any updates.
You've been watching Grey's though, haven't you? You sent me a picture that you got a load for like 99p.
Carrying on with Grey's Anatomy, yeah. And Neighbours is still going on. Old Neighbours. Yeah. Nothing new though.
No. I noticed that an advert, which will be old news now, has come out for Only Murders in the Building, season 3.
Right.
Super excited for that. It's coming out in August. Can he wait? Have you watched Only Murders in the Building?
No, I've not seen it.
Oh, you've got it. You will love it. It's so up your street.
I know.
It's so good.
It's only on Disney Plus, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Get Disney Plus and just watch it. Get it in August and you can do 1, 2, 3.
Okay. I do want to see that.
You'll do it really quick. Even my mum's down in August, and last time she was down, she was like, "Is it out yet?" And I was like, "Yeah," but she's down in August. Help me, and we're gonna watch it together. So I can't even watch it when it comes out. It might be a weekly thing. Oh, I hope it is. It was weekly last time. It's really good.
Well, yeah, I was on Netflix trying to find something. I couldn't, there's no new documentaries out or anything. I watched the Bling Ring documentary.
Oh, I've watched that. That's good.
I thought that was good.
I want to watch The Detectorists. That's come on as a recommendation for me. I need to finish Black Mirror on Netflix. I've started this season and just haven't finished it.
Oh, I was going to ask you.
Go on.
Are you still watching Kardashians?
Yeah, I need to watch tonight's actually because it comes out on a Thursday, but I just watched Doctor Who.
So you were saying about they were going to have an argument.
Yeah, that argument happened.
Because I was going to say, was the Kardashians' argument worse than Tegan and Edric's argument last week on the spaceship? Where does it compare? Ooh. Where does Tegan and Edric and the Kardashians compare?
Oh, no, there's the one on Tegan, and that was more. This one was like very, like the Kardashian one was very sort of like trying to be adult about it. Like, this is how I feel. Well, I'm sorry you feel this. That wasn't my intention. This is this. Well, it made me feel this. Is more that, like, trying to make, whereas the one that Tegan and Adric had was like children. I never thought I'd be this person, but I am.
Well, I'm glad you prioritise Kinder over.
I reckon if you watched the Kardashians, you would also. So when you do Only Murders in the Building, also chuck in some Kardashians. I reckon, like, I hate to be that person, but when you just need something that's just like, they're people you know, but you don't know. Like, they've just been around for so long. I'd never watched Keeping Up With. I've never watched them before. And I don't know what was in me that just thought, yeah, let's put that on. And I did. And it's just, there's something very comforting about, like the drama's there, but it's also no drama. There's way more talking about the Kardashians than I thought we'd do in a Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, I know. Let's start.
I never thought we'd put the Kardashians in a Doctor Who podcast when we started this. And I'd be the one saying it.
Let's go on to Kinder then. Completely different.
You don't know anything that I think of this, do you?
No, I don't. And I watched this pretty much today, and it's one of those where I think fans, well, back in the 90s, fans were like, the Kinder's like really, really good. There's a lot of layers to it. there's all these things going on.
Yeah.
There's more to it in the script than a usual Doctor Who, so people put it up quite high. I'm not sure what people think about it nowadays. I was never bothered, but I did enjoy it today.
Interestingly, because I can't remember why I did. It was between episodes 2 and 3. But I did read something online about it. Not that I think it's because I was just checking that I'd understood something. So sometimes you know how they do like an episode synopsis, and I'll just read it to check I've understood. And I was trying to work out if I'd missed something about how he was controlling things and stuff. We'll come to it. But as soon as this episode went out, it was bought by the National Archive.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it was kept as like a great example of the story, like a good episode, because it has so many different things happening. So that's what I read between such and from. I was like, no, that's fair. Actually, it wasn't very well received at the time, but as time's gone on, fans have recognised it more. That's what it said. And again, it didn't go into. I didn't read too much. I was just checking I was reading the right one, and it was quite groundbreaking in terms of. Can you believe I'm the one telling you these facts?
I can't believe this.
Just let's have a moment for that. And it was very groundbreaking in terms of this. A lot of the effects that we used were quite new at the time, and I thought the effects were I thought they worked really well. It changed how they did the schedule. This story. And I can't remember, again, I just sort of flash read it. Apparently they used to do a 4-day filming schedule. And this moved them to being a 6 because the director didn't get to do everything he wanted to do. So that's why they ended up with the snake at the end, which was supposed to be a different thing. But because they ran out of time, they had to use the puppet and he hated it. And it was because of stuff like that they moved to a 6-day filming schedule.
Wow, I did not know
And also,
that.
this was the first episode out in the colour era where a companion was missing the whole story, pretty much.
Well, okay, let's
get straight in on that note.
Well, let's get Nyssa out the way quickly, like they did in the actual episode.
Yeah. And apparently it's because when the story was wrote, they didn't know there was going to be 3 of them.
Well, yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, so she collapsed last week as a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, but no, that's why it said that. Like, because I went back and just read that bit after. I was just checking I was reading the right one, and it said about how it had been born. I was like, I'll read this later. Read my story bit, and then I did read that, and it said when the story was when it was commissioned at the time, there were only 2 companions planned, so they wrote it for 2.
Well, she's in episode 1 and episode 4, so I think she was contracted 2 less episodes than everyone else for this season, for whatever reason. But no, I think that makes sense because, I mean, you couldn't have added another companion in this story. Anyway, there was far too much going on as well. I didn't really miss Nyssa, though, in this.
I didn't miss her at all. The only, ironically, you know, the female scientist?
Yeah.
Reminded me very much of Liz Shaw.
Oh, right, yes. Do you know who she sort of looked like?
Go on.
This is a very niche reference here. She looked like Lisa Scott Lee from Steps in the Chain Reaction video. That's like an older Lisa Scott Lee, I thought, which I've never noticed before.
I still can't believe that Kinder are hostile.
Well, there may be another reason.
What?
Something more hostile is out there.
Oh, that's really shit.
I'm disappointed.
That's really shit.
Yeah.
But she was great, though, and we haven't had that female. We used to have all these female scientists in the 60s. Like,
yeah,
all the time.
I was thinking that. Maybe that's why I was thinking of Liz Shaw. Like, we just hadn't had that in a while.
So that was good. Nyssa goes off for her 48 hours sleep.
Such a stupid
in
reason.
The Delta Wave Augmenter or whatever.
I mean, you know, it's not like they have holidays anymore, but she got a holiday.
Yeah, it's very much like a 60s holiday. And they're on Divaloka, this jungle planet, which is quite well done in the studio.
I think a lot of us sat on this is great.
I mean, we've seen a lot of jungles so far. And, like, okay, it is brightly lit, like we've said before, but I don't know, it just works in this. I didn't have a problem with it at all, any of the sets or anything, even though it was brightly lit.
Yeah.
And we've got these characters that are on this, but these sort of colonial explorers is basically what it is, coming in. Like, I mean, it happens nowadays, doesn't it? People find, like, tribes in the middle of nowhere that haven't seen civilization or anything like that. Todd, the lady, which I'll call Lisa now,
Yeah.
and then the other two guys who are sort of all, they start off a bit crazy already, don't they? Like, I never.
Well,
really
one of
got-
them definitely does. I mean, the older guy was just I didn't see it going where he went. Let's put it that way.
No, I didn't. When I first watched it, I've never really followed this properly before.
Well, that's why I had to read this to check that I was understanding what I was understanding.
Yeah, because so they've come on. They're exploring this planet to see if it's okay for colonization, and there's supposed to be more of a crew, but they've gone missing and stuff. So we sort of come in halfway through the story, which doesn't really help. But before that, we've got Tegan and Adric finding this these wind chime things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
For some reason, Tegan goes to sleep, and the others just walk off and just leave her for like no reason.
Well, I know.
And have no.
But they all acknowledge that she's not well because the doctor's constantly like, "Oh yeah, if you've got something for my friend."
Yeah, like she just like you wouldn't just leave Tegan lying down. I suppose I don't know. I just thought that was odd.
Maybe because everyone's just lying down. That's like.
And then in that first episode, you've got sort of two strands. You've got Tegan going off in her nightmare world thing, and then the Doctor and Adric meeting these guys on the base, finding out about the Kinder tribe and all of that thing. So you've got these two bits of the story set up.
Yeah.
What really annoyed me in that first episode
Oh, there we go.
was the cutting back and forth. There wasn't enough time to get into the atmosphere of it, because that bit of where you go in when Tegan goes into that thing, we've never seen anything like that before.
No.
It was really atmospheric. It looks visually amazing. They're trying out different things, but you've got like Tegan says one line or something, and it'll cut to the Doctor and Adric and everything that I've seen, and then it'll cut back to Tegan again. And I just wanted a bit more Tegan wandering around, atmosphere, and a bit of a conversation to happen. But I don't know. Once I'd noticed that it was like cut back one word, cut to the other guys, a word or two, cut back again. It just really annoyed me that every time you built up that good atmosphere, it just went to something else.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. I thought the effects were amazing. I really enjoyed that going through the eye and all of that. Even later, and I'm jumping here, but when they like do the flash forward and it's all sort of like all that sort of stuff, I thought, and apparently that's why the National Archive bought this episode. They were like, it's a really good example of the effects that we used at the time that they've had and the storytelling. They thought of it as like one of the peak of the whole of the series in terms of like the effects, the story, the directing, the acting, all that sort of stuff. So
for the Tegan's bit, what do you think about her and her being taken over and all of that?
It took me a while. I mean, but that is the nature of the story. There's so much you don't know. It's probably not until the third episode. Well, it's the end of the third episode, which has a great cliffhanger, and we will come to that. But it's not until the end of the third episode that you really get to know what's going on.
I suppose you're also going to tell me I don't exist.
I enjoyed her acting when she was taken over. She lost her accent.
She was really good. Yeah.
Really good. Part of me was also a bit like, of course it's Tegan. And it's the nature of just having the two. But it's almost like she's seen as the weaker character quite a lot in these sorts of things. Like, and that's where her and Adric have those arguments. And I don't see her that way, but it's interesting, I guess, because she's the female. She's seen as like the weak one.
Well, I think you can take a lot out of this. I don't know, like, I think fans have probably analysed this again and again, because when you've got Tegan going into that thing, you've got those two characters playing chess, and you've already seen Adric and Nyssa playing chess before, so is this like a weird version of Adric and Nyssa, and then that other guy would represent the Doctor? Like, what represents what in this thing? You could read into loads of stuff with that. And then I think on the DVD, I was watching a bit of the making of, and Janet Fielding, who plays Tegan, was saying, because obviously Nyssa's that sensible one and Adric's the sort of younger teenager, maybe because Tegan's got that sort of temper, maybe it sort of latched on to that, and that, that sort of aspect of her that the others don't have, and that's why it's sort of shown that bringing out that sort of darker side to her that maybe more of an unstable side to her. I mean, last week she was really unstable, wasn't she? With all
That's
the
what I mean.
stuff.
It's odd because I think of her as quite practical, and again, I don't know if this is like me as a woman viewing her. It might be different, but I see her as very practical. She's human. She's been thrown into a lot of weird situations, and she's trying to learn. No one ever explains anything to her. Like, they always say, like, yeah, of course, as if she's supposed to know. There's a really weird sort of dismissive nature of how they react and work with Tegan, especially like Adric and his weird pet thing with her. It's really odd. And it's weird how that's been scripted throughout. And I don't know if it's just because she's the female character, and so it's been decided that she is, like, the damsel of... So, of course, she gets taken. It's kind of like when we had, like, with Barbara was always the love interest. Like, in every story, Barbara was the love interest, you know? And it's kind of a bit like that. It's kind of a bit... But I don't see her that way as a character. Actually, I think she's really good.
Well, I was listening to an audiobook earlier on this week.
Of course you were.
With this team. And it's written by the guy who plays Adric. He writes a few audio stories now.
Oh, right. I thought you meant this story was.
No.
That story. Yeah, the one you listened to.
It's a new story with these characters set at this time. And he does this... He's explaining all the characters and everything. And he says something about... along the same lines where you've got all these characters and Tegan's the odd one out because they're all... I think the words he uses is they're all extraordinary, like mathematical genius... Nyssa's this princess from this other world, and you've got the Doctor, and Tegan is the ordinary person in this group.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that really stood out when it's a really good story actually. In that one, Tegan gets sent off to... They're in like a parallel London, and Tegan gets arrested and sent off to the moon and separated.
Of course.
I'm only halfway through at the moment, but yeah. That stood out that she was described as the ordinary one because she hasn't got any of these special abilities or anything like that.
No, and I think that's why sometimes she's quite dismissed, and I think she's an easy one to be like, well, of course she's the one that's like... I mean, we're really jumping, but when Adric says, like, well, it's your fault anyway, and that's that weird, you're the one that got taken over something. And he's like, but I don't see her as weak. And it's the way she portrays it. I think she's, like, very... strong in like the situations that she's been put in and dealt with, and no one like explains anything, and she just gets on with it, and quite often she's sorted a lot of things. And she reminds me a lot of a Barbara, a bit more Sarah Janey as well.
That's funny how you see her like that. Because in sort of fandom,
yeah,
I mean, she's way more appreciated now, I think, than she was. Obviously, she's come back with Jodie Whittaker and stuff, and it's all a bit different now. But back in the day, she was always like the whingy, argumentative, moany one.
But that's what I mean. It's really odd because I just don't see her that way. I think her acting is on par with Sarah Jane's. I think she's a really strong actress, but I see her very much as like a mix of Barbara and Sarah Jane.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's because I'm watching in order as well, and I've seen her struggle from her first day on her job to now, that maybe I see that more now. And actually, speaking of that, I think this is a regular feature now, Tegan's timeline, because we worked out, say, on her way to her job was Monday morning, end of Castrovalva was Wednesday evening, I think we worked out. So then on that spaceship last week, I think that was only about a day. And in this, the Doctor says she's been asleep for like 2 days. So I make it that it was Monday morning was Legopolis on her way to her new job. And the end of this story is now Sunday evening. So it's been a week.
It's been a week.
She's still in her outfit.
Yeah, they all are. Because also, Nyssa basically fainted right at the end. And that's why we sort of go straight into.
Yeah.
It's been a week.
She's had all this has happened in a week. But it's very strong start for her. And actually, she's in that nightmare world well into episode 2. She's stuck in that dark place. But then it's a shame then towards the end of the story, it's not... I mean, this is very much a Tegan story, but towards the end, she falls asleep, she wakes up. Once she's back to her normal self, she's sort of sidelined a little bit. It doesn't sort of follow all the way through with her. She could have maybe done a bit more towards the end, but it is a good...
I guess she didn't know. That's part of the thing. She didn't know she's taken over until it's explained to her, and she said she was like out of her own body doing it and stuff.
Because then it moves, because the snake moves off her quite quickly actually onto the other guy. And I suppose it needed to do that for the story, because otherwise Tegan would have ended up possibly being killed or something. So you needed that. But I get all of that stuff. I always had struggled with the other stuff, with this guy. Well, what's his name? I should know his name. Hindle. Hindle is the crazy guy.
Yeah, all that stuff. I could not, and I cannot tell you, I enjoyed it in terms of like as a device. I could not tell you what it added to that story.
Well, I think he's a little bit unhinged already, and maybe the influence of it has made him already. He's a bit, because like you've got the colonel. Let's call him the colonel guy, the older guy. He's old school explorer, rules and regulations.
But again, I didn't understand why. Sorry to interrupt, but like he went in his thing, he comes back and he's suddenly a completely different person.
That's because what's her name showed him a box. But
I thought the whole point of the box was to reverse the effect, not so it's supposed to normalize, not.
Yeah, but I think it reversed Hindle because he was crazy to begin with.
Yeah. Whereas it sent him a bit.
The other, I think it depends what you're like to begin with. So you've got him unstable before anything's even happened, because like end of episode 1, he's like,
oh yeah,
right.
He's already like, I'm in charge.
He's like, but his actually, what do you think of his acting?
To begin with, I thought he was really annoying, but by the time he's in full crazy mode, I was buying it.
Somebody make him go away! Proper like hostage situation the whole time, isn't it?
He was really good. Like I say, I didn't understand what it brought to the story, but I was enjoying it being there. But if you'd have asked me that after the first episode, I'd have been like, he's really fucking annoying. It's just whiny. But when he's like fully in it, going on about, we just want to play all that. Like he was so compelling and so good.
Well, I think maybe that's the psychic influence of the kind, because they've captured these kinder guys, and maybe it's the psychic influence. Because then that first episode, like when the Doctor and Todd just walk out, and then he just like smashes the place up.
Yeah. That was a moment where I was like, oh, what a dick.
I mean, a dickhead captain. We haven't had one of those for a while either.
No, well, he made himself captain, didn't he? And then stayed there.
But then you've got Todd, Lisa Scott Lee, just completely normal throughout the whole thing and level-headed and not affected by anything.
She's eating apples. She's eating. Do you know what? Maybe that's it. It's because she's been eating her apples.
But then you've got all this again symbolism, like Eve eating the apple in paradise. You know, all of that stuff. There is a lot of that going on. Her only dramatic moment was that amazing cliffhanger. I hope that's the same one you're talking about with opening the box.
Oh yeah. Great.
Like
she's dead.
Oh no! The box one as well. She has two, doesn't she?
No. I was on about the dead when she's dead. Like, Doctor, come on, she's dead. And everyone's just love that cliffhanger.
No, it's the box one for me. Like, don't open it now. I thought that was really.
I want that as like a ringtone. Don't open it now. Messages or something.
They were all good cliffhangers, actually. Yeah, even that first one with that guy just suddenly just gets a gun out and proper shouts at them.
This was a really good story. I feel like, just like you've said, though, if on multiple watches there's more to take in, which won't be happening with me. But let's just set that now. But it's no Keys of Marinus. But actually, I really enjoyed it. And I feel like there's a lot I could take away from this. Maybe I will. I reckon... No, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say, what is my favourite colour Doctor Who story in terms of like the most likely I'd rewatch? And this could be it.
Oh, colour. What? I thought there was some... I'm sure you've said for each Doctor which is your favourite.
I have, but I'm talking about like what I'm most likely to rewatch. And I feel like it was 4 and there was enough... The acting was strong throughout. There was enough interesting things for me to think on a second viewing I could take more in. That's my thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching this again.
That's what I mean. I'd need a gap, But if we're talking about a colour story that I'm most likely to go back and rewatch, it would probably so far be this one.
What have I'm just trying to read my notes here. You know I can't read my writing. What have oh no, that's what I was going to say. So yeah, so I don't know if you picked up on this. This goes back to like when we did Edge of Destruction. Remember when I said that fans call people that don't the general public that just watch the not we. That's what this is from because they say the not we in this. That's what it's from.
Say not we's, yeah. I noticed that. I didn't connect the two, but I did know that they were called the not we's.
I haven't heard people being called that for ages, actually, now. I don't know if it still is. But back then, did you get sort of where the Mara was coming from? Like, it's...
No.
Okay.
What I understood of it was, like, it lives in the conscience, in a... It looks for the gaps where you feel most unstable or something. So it seeks its way in that way, and then where you have doubt and things is where it lives. That's how I sort of understood it.
Because I was following the story, part 1, fine, I know what's going on there.
But equally, if I am correct, then that explains why everyone's being so rude to Tegan and what. Well, of course, she just fucking don't. No one ever explains anything to her. She's had a hell of a week.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. What are you going to say?
And then you have Aris, who's the guy that gets taken over, and we know that the Kinder can't speak and all of that stuff. I get all of that.
So that's the other thing as well. The female Kinder can, but the males can't.
Well, there's that girl. What's her name? Oh, Corona? I put Corona. I don't know if that's her name. Hang on a second. Do you know what? Last week I called Bygone Biggin the whole time. He actually is called Bygone, not Biggin. I've done it again. I better hang on. I'm going to just look up. What is her name? Not Corona. Maybe it's Corona.
I'll be back in a second. I'm going to do it over.
Hang on, Corona. So she's called Karuna.
Karuna, not Corona.
So Karuna.
She's not a virus or a pint or whatever.
And I was like, is she a child? Is she like a child actress, or is she just like a woman?
I feel like she's probably like 19, 20. So she can play young and she looks young, but she was great. I thought like the women, I think the best in this were the women. I thought the women were all quite good in terms of side characters.
It's Panna that is the old lady who
looks brilliant.
Like, her look is amazing.
Yeah, she's so good.
And she plays out like that sort of blind. Like, she looks a bit like a even older. What's her name? Amelia Rumford from Stones of Blood.
She's really good. I really liked her. For all of her acting was brilliant. I enjoyed the scene she was in and her interaction with,
and all of that.
Who I'm now going to call Corona.
And all of that. I felt like I was watching like The Tempest or something. It's very.
Yeah.
Like that is a Shakespeare. I bet she did Shakespeare on the stage. That woman.
But I think a lot of this story felt like that. It felt a mix of this sort of classic style of acting with all the modern effects and modern things.
Yeah. It got a little bit confusing to me when they turned up and there was more sort of mythical speak, and then we had these visions. I didn't really get all the visions, and obviously with the visions you get these like 1980s electronic clocks suddenly turn up in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah, the clock, and they're all the same. The clocks were, I was like, the clocks were fucking weird. Like, could we not have had different clocks? Why are they all just digital clocks at like 11 o'clock?
Yeah, that sort of dates it a little bit and takes you out of it, doesn't it? I wasn't really sure. It made a good cliffhanger, but I wasn't really sure what was going on there. Oh, and meanwhile, actually, before that, when the Doctor and Adric and Todd are in that prison, that is the smallest prison I've ever seen. It's like this tiny little cage.
It's a triangle.
I've seen like parrots in pet shops in bigger like cages than that. It's the tiniest area. And they're in there for a while, and then there's this whole box thing with Karuna. When she opens the box, and I was like, it does explain what's in the box. Towards the end, the Doctor says it's like some maybe sound wave that they've mastered or something, and that's what sort of changes your mind and everything. So yeah, I didn't realise that the old guy was going to suddenly just be like that. You don't really know. No,
it just sort of felt like nowhere. Like, it felt so different, and I wasn't sure. I know, I get that, but like, I couldn't work out if he was under some influence of the others are, but then the mirror thing, I don't know. That whole thing, for me, didn't add much. It was just another layer of and I guess it gave them something to do, because otherwise it's just that one woman scientist.
Yeah, I do like her, and she's like the Doctor's sort of companion for this when the others aren't around. She's not the strongest scientist we've had.
No, I thought she was a really good secondary character.
But I think you probably do need, because everybody else is completely out of their mind most of the time. You've just got the Doctor and her that are like keeping it all together.
She's just a normal. She's kind of like, I eat the fruit, just do my science. Yeah. I think there's more to it than they realise.
I remember ages ago, this is in the 90s, in Doctor Who magazine, they did this Valentine's feature on various people that the Doctor might have got with, and those two were put down as a couple that they were flirting in this story. But I don't think so.
I think they had a really good rapport. At the end, actually, I wouldn't have been surprised if she'd have joined them. It felt like there was a really... If there wasn't already three of them, it's whacking everyone in.
There's a lot of them, yeah. Well, actually, that actress, she's just done, literally this year, some audio adventures with Tom Baker, and she is a companion with Leela and the Fourth Doctor, playing obviously someone different, but that actress has just done a series.
Interesting.
She plays a character called Margaret. I don't know where, I haven't heard them, so I don't know where she comes from or anything, but so she has been a companion at some point.
Yeah, interesting.
Adric doesn't really get to do a ton of... Well, I suppose he does, but it's interesting. Again, when he said, "Oh, yes, I believe you," it wasn't like last week where he might have believed Monarch, actually. This time he was pretending to help get the Doctor out and everything, at least. But then he spends most of the time just sort of hostage there, not really being able to do very much. He was part of the story. And like you said, he does argue with Tegan again. That bickering comes out towards the end.
I feel like they added in this crazy story for something for the men to do. This is a very female story. Other than what are they called? The hostages? Not the hostages. The ones that don't speak. Kinder, which is the name of the story. I should have got that. Other than the Kinder men, which obviously are part of the story, this is a very female story. Maybe that's why I liked it. Because the two officer guys just go crazy, and Adric's with them the whole time. I feel like it's just to give that third or second companion, in this case, something to do. I don't understand why they were other than he's gone crazy, he's going to blow up the dome. But the other guy that got injured was going to blow up the dome. I don't know. Someone will explain this to me better, I'm sure. But I was just kind of I don't feel like they added anything other than it gave Adric some people to be around and try and do something with.
Well, I think he went crazy. I think he was scared. There's stuff, maybe it's part of the psychic influence. Because he used his mind to control those two guys that they captured,
and the mirror.
I think, and he was scared of what was outside because he was keep an eye out outside. We can't. I think there was this whole, again, probably layers of the outside coming in or outside influence or this unknown world is going to get us. And I think his craziness was right, I'm just going to blow everything up. Everything will be ground zero. And then there won't be any threat to us. I'm just going to blow us all up. I think that's what it was.
But equally, because wasn't that what the Kinder talking guy was trying to do?
Well, see, he's taken over by the Mara. And he was we're going to destroy...
And in the prophecies, it's showing that it'll be destroyed, the dome.
Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, they wanted to get rid of the dome. I think the Mara wanted sort of more of a... Well, it's come through from another world, hasn't it? And he wants to take over everyone, probably. I don't really know. The Mara didn't play that big a part in the end, after all of that. I mean, it came out as a snake as well. And there is a lot going on, but it's not in a way where we've had it's because it's a good story. There's a lot going on, and it's well acted, and it's a good story.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that there's so many different things going on.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think we've had that
a lot
mix.
of the effects, a lot of things just worked. There was just a lot of things that worked about it.
What do you think of the snake and the mirrors at the end then?
I mean, it wasn't wonderful.
Well, because on the Blu-ray, we've obviously got a CGI snake, and it's all done completely differently and new
Mine is
effects and
definitely
stuff.
a weird puppet.
So they have redone that, and it does look amazing now, obviously.
Because apparently, I literally skim read this after, but he wanted to do some sort of cool effect for the snake, and they just didn't have time. So he had to deal with the puppet.
Mean, from what they've done, but it doesn't matter because it just represents this thing, I think.
Yeah. I liked that. I liked that the snake moved off their arms and was quite an obvious thing. I did like that, and I liked how it got off him and grew.
And you could tell who was evil because they had
pink teeth.
Pink teeth. Well, yeah, it looked like she just got lipstick on her teeth or something.
Yeah.
But that actually,
it looked like he'd sucked a lolly in lunch and it had stained his teeth.
Yeah. But it's quite subtle though, because when Tegan wakes up, she's got that in her mouth and her eyes just slightly made up. But it's not like they went over the top with it. It's just enough, and her body language completely changes.
Yeah. She was great, and that whole. I think Tegan was really strong. Equally, and we haven't talked about this, but the Doctor. It's interesting how quickly I am just like, I don't even. He's just a doctor. And every time it surprises me how quickly that settles him. He just seems really confident in this, really sure of his character, who he is. I guess it's because there's less companions as well. This story works. And it works with the Doctor. I liked the Doctor and Liz Shaw Wannabe, their chemistry. And I liked how they were getting on. That's what he does best, the Doctor, is getting to know people. And I really like the Doctor in this as well.
And he's a little bit still like he's looking after kids as well. Like with Adric at the beginning, he's like Adric just gets that stick and he's running after him, don't touch that, don't do this. He's got to make sure all the kids are not getting into mischief. He very much
is looking after kids, isn't he?
And I swear they've highlighted his hair. He's much blonder in this one. He looks like he's got a tan.
Yeah.
And he's much blonder than before. And Tegan's hair is massive now as well. It's huge. Adric's acting, I think he's quite good in this. The only thing that annoys me, I don't know why he does it. He puts his hand in his pocket a lot of the time. But unnaturally. After that bit at the end where he's in that machine and it goes out of control, and then Tegan's talking to him outside, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it got out of control. I didn't know it would do that." He's got his hand in his pocket. The way he stood,
maybe
it just feels
his trousers were falling down.
Maybe,
and so he put his hand in so he could hold them up.
I don't. And then when he's talking to the guys in the base as well, trying to get away, he's got his hand in his pocket the whole time. And I'm like, you just wouldn't do it. It's just very unnatural. Yeah, I'm glad you like this one.
I did, yeah. I surprised myself too.
Because it's not your normal Terry Nation.
No. There's nothing that felt weak in this. I couldn't say that person was weak.
And it wasn't too alien that it was a chore, and it wasn't too chanty or anything. Yeah, it was a
nice sort of mix.
It could have been.
I like trying to work out why they were so clever, and stuff. It was good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
great.
More than I expected.
And apparently, I was reading as well. There used to be a rumor that Kate Bush wrote this under a pseudonym. But it's not true. Really? Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
So weird.
People used to say that it was Kate Bush secretly.
That's so
weird. This.
That's so bizarre.
I suppose when this came out in the 80s, she would have been top of a
game. She was like, I'll write an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it there while we're so positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything so far that you want to see in this series, or anything with the characters? Obviously, we've got Nyssa back now. We're all back on board. What do you want to see next?
I'm trying to think.
Or do you want to see who do you want to see take the lead or something to happen? Or
I'd like there to be one less companion at some. Oh, hang on one sec. Turn that off. For some reason a message came through. Oh my god. It's Ruth. Yeah, so... That's Ruth. Sorry. I'm trying to think what I want from it. I want one less companion. I want at some point someone to either go back or... And I think it's between Nyssa and Adric. I wouldn't mind going to Earth.
Yeah,
Because we haven't been on Earth. We've been traveling through space, and I always enjoy like a little Earth adventure. The Master, I feel I'd like that at some point. Not yet, maybe, but at some point I'd like that back.
1981 says they'll see what they can do. We'll see everybody next week for The Visitation. Thanks for listening, everybody.
It's going to be in a prison. I don't know why. It makes me think of a prison.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see you all in the prison next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2WatchWho. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Well, that's really shit.
I'm disappointed.
That's really shit.